Hello everyone, Namaste, Hare Krishna. So today's subject is reconciling a spiritual practitioner, killing things, creatures, and as a Hare Krishna, I suppose you could call me a spiritual practitioner, and also in the line of work that I do, growing as much of my own food as I can, fruit and vegetables. I have had to deal with killing things, possums and pigs and so forth, things that are attacking the garden. So I have some experience in both realms, the spiritual and the material. So can they be reconciled? So reconciled means two things that might seem contradictory, but can they be brought together in harmony, sort of matched up like that, or not, you know? So that's the question, because in our minds, when we think of a spiritual person, we often may think that they're non-violent, right? You know, we think that a spiritual person is like, you know, they're meditating and they're not hurting anything. They love all living things, right? A spiritual person loves everyone and everything, and is not going to be, you know, aggressive or violent like that and can kill things. So whereas killing things obviously, you know, requires violence. You know, how can you kill something without violence? And we see that in the Buddhist path, that their main principle, ahimsa paradharma. Ahimsa means non-violent, and it's the Sanskrit word for non-violent, ahimsa. Himsa means violent, and ahimsa means non-violent. So para means supreme, dharma means like occupation. So that's their supreme process. Occupation is to not be violent. And we see also in Christianity, it's one of the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill. So we see in any genuine spiritual path, that recommendation is definitely there to not be violent. So we'd like to first of all look at what does it mean to be a spiritual practitioner, because 100 people will have 100 different ideas about what is it a spiritual person going to be like. And so we're going to be talking about it from the Vedic version, which is, according to the Vedic version, is coming down from God, coming down from the Supreme Being, knowledge coming from the Supreme Being, the words of God, coming down through a disciplic succession. It's a whole chain of self-realized souls that the original ones heard from God, and then they've passed it on to another, and then they've passed it down, and you know, the disciple then becomes the next guru, and they pass it down. So we are receiving this knowledge in this chain coming down from God, and the main name of God in the Vedic tradition is Krishna, which means all attractive. But there are different names, of course, Jehovah and Allah and so forth, one supreme being with many names. So according to the Vedic version, a spiritual practitioner is on the path of spiritual realization. And as spiritual realization, what does that mean? To be self-realized, spiritually realized, to realize one's own identity, that we're not just the body, but we're the eternal soul within the body. And that all creatures also have that eternal soul there. Wherever there's a living thing, there's an eternal soul within that form, within that body, material body. And so understanding ourself, and also understanding the Supreme Self, which we are all part and parcel of, which is God. So knowing one's own soul and other souls and God, and the relationship between the individual souls and God. and how we can revive that relationship, that eternal relationship between the soul and God. So that is what we would call a spiritual practitioner, someone that has an interest to do that, having that knowledge. And once we understand that the relationship is that God is the master and we are all the servant. We are all tiny servants of that supreme master. And then what is the role of the servant is to do what the master says. So that's pretty obvious there. That's what the servant does. So there, now is where a very interesting word comes in, dharma. So dharma means duty. So the duty is what is duty? What does it mean? We often don't like that word duty. It gives us an idea of something that we have to do, whether we like it or not. And but we see it's there, even like, a mother has a duty, right? That the child cries in the night, and it's the duty of the mum to get up and, address whatever the needs of the child are, or to feed the child and so forth like that, to provide clothes, and, the parents are providing, shelter and food and comforts and everything for the child. That's the duty of the parents, so in different roles that we play, we have different duties. So, and it's the duty of the citizens' right to, do what the government says. Sometimes it doesn't go so well because the government's not very perfect. And we run into problems. But we still see that, we do have a duty to the government. We have to pay taxes and so forth, have to pay our rates and blah, blah, blah. Obey the road rules, like that when you go on the road. So you have to be obedient to the rules given by the government, so forth like that. So we see in material society we have different duties. But the ultimate duty, according to the Vedas, is to be obedient to the laws given by God. And that is called dharma. And that is perfect. We see our material duties often, there's many faults and imperfections. But it's not the same with God. Whatever orders he gives are completely perfect, and for our benefit. It's not for God's benefit that he's giving us instructions, and our following them doesn't benefit him or cause him any problems. It doesn't affect him in any way whatsoever. But it's completely for our benefit. If we follow them, we're going to be more happy, and if we don't follow them, we're going to suffer like that. So that is the word dharma, as these laws, guidelines given by the Supreme Person for our benefit. Why does he do that? Because he loves us. So God loves us, Krishna loves us. We're part and parcel of the Supreme. And just like if there's a little pain in your finger, if there's a needle in your finger, your whole body feels that. So just like we're part of God, like the finger is part of the body, so God feels our pain, and just like we try to address that pain, it's very important, even though the finger's so tiny part, but it's still very valuable, very important, and we'll do whatever's necessary to try to, make that finger a healthy finger again. So in the same way, God loves even us tiny little fingers, and is always trying to help us to be healthy and happy again spiritually, and reunite with him. And at the moment we're like, fingers that are cut off from the body, we've become disconnected. And therefore yoga means to connect. So the process of yoga is how to reconnect with God. We've become disconnected, we've become like a finger chopped off, which is pretty useless. So asar, with no value, no use, so we want to get reconnected, that's yoga. So there's different ways of doing that. But the basic point is that God is giving us these instructions for our benefit, that's dharma. And if we follow that, is good for us. And we're not going to get any bad karma because of that. Because if we stick to our duties, we're not going to have to suffer any sinful reactions or any bad karma and suffer as a result of that. That won't happen. So, and here's something that's interesting, that Vedic society divides the society into four different areas of work, departments of work. So you have the Brahmana division or class, which are the intelligent class. They're like the teachers and the priests and so forth. And then you have the Kshatriya class. They're the administrative class. They're like the governments, the military, protecting society. They're the protectors of the society. And then you have the Vaishyas, which are the productive class. So they're producing the food and everything like that and doing business, and they're producing things and making some profit usually from that. And then you have the labourer class, the Sudras. So they're getting the work done, so they're carrying out the orders of the other divisions, and they're by their work then jobs are getting done. And they're not so intelligent to be able to work out themselves what to do, so their recommendation is just to follow the instructions of those other divisions, the productive class and the protective class and the intelligent class, like that. So these are very natural divisions in society, and of course in modern day Indian society it's become known as the caste system. So we're not promoting that, because that has deteriorated to the point of being divided according to the family you're born in. So we're not promoting that. That's a load of rubbish. It's not supposed to be according to the family you're born in. If you're born in a Brahmana family, intellectuals, it doesn't mean you're automatically an intellectual. Just like if you're born in a family of doctors, does that mean you're a doctor? Maybe you'll become, but you have to get the training. You have to practice that. You have to be trained, educated as a doctor, and then become qualified. And when you're qualified, then you're regarded as a doctor. Not that, my mum and dad is a doctor, I'm a doctor. No, it doesn't work like that. So in the same way, it's not by birth. But if you have the qualifications, if you have the natural qualities and everything, then you're regarded, to be in that particular division. And then you'll have particular duties. So the Brahmana will have different duties. The Kshatriya have different duties to Vaishya and the Sudra. And it's said in the Vedas that if you in that nature that you have, that your intellectual class, for example, a Brahmana, then within that duties, one of them is that the duty is to be non-violent. Okay, so if you're in a priestly class, you're worshipping God and serving God and everything like that, completely devoted to the spiritual and everything, then you wouldn't be getting out with a bazooka, with a gun, and shooting things, people or animals or whatever like that. However, if you were in the protective class, and your duty is to protect the innocent citizens, and some nutcase comes, which, let's face it, in the material world there are nutcases, that are always trying to disturb the law-abiding citizens, and the criminal kind of personalities like that terrorizing people and murdering and raping and stealing and so forth. So they're there. Let's face it, we want to be spiritual and everything, but not everyone is like that. So there has to be a section of society that will protect those innocent, law-abiding citizens from the crazy ones. And that's in every society has that, army, police, whatever like that, to give protection. And according to the Vedic culture, that they sometimes, in order to protect someone, they have to kill someone else. So someone's aggressively going to hurt someone, and then someone has to step in to protect them, and then that sometimes someone's going to get killed. So that's not regarded as sinful or bad karma for that person with a protective nature doing their job, doing their duty, to kill that aggressive person or persons like that. And now let's go to the productive class, the Vaishyas. Their job is to produce food. So whether it's growing, grains or fruit and vegetables or whatever like that, or cows, milking cows like that, they have to protect the cows or protect their crops or whatever like that. So that's their duty, to protect the crops. So something comes along to hurt the cow, like in India, it might be in tropical countries, it might be a tiger comes. A tiger or lion comes to attack the cows. What is the Vaishya, productive class going to do? Is he going to stand and watch his cows get ripped to bits? No. He's going to, he would get out his bow and arrow or his sword and try his best to kill whatever's attacking his herd of animals like that. And there's no sin, that's not bad karma for him to, if he has to kill those, aggressive creatures. Or like in my case, I'm trying to grow fruits and veggies. If some possums come along and eating the fruits and veggies, breaking the trees, which breaks my heart to see them, climb the branches and break the trees, not only eat the fruits. Or a pig come along and stand up on its back legs and break all the branches of the peach tree to reach peaches up to about 1.5 meters high off the ground. So, if those creatures come into my, place of work, which is producing my food, then according to the Vedas, I have the right to kill them. And there's no bad karma for that. But I should not go out hunting for fun. So that's the thing. Are you doing it as a matter of duty because it has to be done, it's the right thing to do, or are you doing it just to titillate your senses, enjoy yourself? That I like blasting things, killing things. It makes me feel like I'm God, that I can control the life and death of some other thing. Because, there is a thrill in killing. It's explained by our spiritual teacher. And that gives you that, adrenaline rush that you're like playing God. That I can control this thing living or dying. And that makes me have that like godly power like that. No, so that is forbidden. That's sinful. That's bad karma. That should not be done. But just do it as a matter of duty. If you're doing it just as a matter of duty, you have a duty to do and you're just doing that, then you don't get a reaction. You don't get a bad reaction for that. And in fact, as a spiritual practitioner, we do love all living entities, and we don't like to see anything suffer or like that. So even if we do have to kill something, we try to make it as quick as possible, so the suffering of that creature is minimized like that, and just as much as necessary to survive, right? So we're also not producing food to make a huge profit from that. We're just growing enough food just to survive, to feed, my wife and I and our neighbours and friends that we're inviting to come and everything like that. So just to keep our body and soul together. So that's the Vedic recommendation. You work just enough to keep your body and soul together. So if you're going to, do it to the point where you want to become multi-millionaire, and get ahead of Bill Gates or whatever, or Elon Musk, no, then that becomes sinful. You're doing too much beyond what you need to survive. So it's just enough interacting in the material world, just enough to survive, keep your body and soul together. That's the Vedic recommendation, and that won't be entangling you in bad karma and sinful life. Like that. So not getting overwhelmed by greed. So as soon as you become greedy and you want to take more than what you need, more than what you absolutely, require, then you're out of balance. Then that's, out of the universal, balance of things. And then definitely there will be reactions. But if you're just doing, very minimalistic existence and only, affecting other living entities to the very minimal point, then there's no problem with that. And let me tell you for sure, without any shade of a doubt, that if you think that you can live in this world without any violence, you're an illusion. Because I tell you, if you're going to walk from point A to point B, 100 meters away, how many bugs have you squashed? How many ants, how many bugs like that? If you walk at night, you can hear the snails crushing under your feet. If you drive in a car, how many things? Look at all the bugs that got splattered on the windscreen. If you drink water, do you know how many bugs are in that water that you just swallowed and put into your, hydrochloric acid in your stomach and boiled them alive? If you light a fire, do you know how many moths and things have gone into that fire? So if you eat something, did you know that even if you're a vegan, that lettuce was a living thing. That broccoli had its head chopped off, for you to stuff in your face, like that. So there was a soul. There's a soul that was in that broccoli, and you chopped its head off, and that soul got, unceremoniously kicked out of its body, and it has to be reincarnated again as a broccoli to, finish off that, required time in that life before it can move the next one up in the evolutionary cycle from broccoli. I don't know what the next species is from broccoli, but there definitely is one, and you just slowed it down in its evolutionary cycle. So that's bad karma. That's bad karma. So what I'm pointing out is you can't exist without violence. It's just a matter of how much can you reduce it to the very minimal point. And you say, well, Abhay, you have to kill possums and so many things. It's a lot of violence. And well, if I just go back to the supermarket food and, okay, I'm just going to eat that, I'm not going to kill anything anymore because it's too much violence. But do you know how much more killing than me the farmer that supplies it to the supermarket does? Heaps more. They don't muck around like me with a little gun or something like that and a trap or two. They just put poison everywhere, and they massive tractors, smash the earth to bits, and they put pesticides, herbicides, all kind of things, fungicides, everywhere, killing all kind of living entities from big to small. It's like mass destruction, compared to what I'm doing is very minimal killing like that, but it makes us feel better, isn't it? That, someone else is doing the killing for me. But is that right? Is that right? No, that's a bit hypocrisy, hypocritic. That, someone else is, I know there's a pseudo-Buddhist up the road, and he won't kill anything, but he eats meat. So someone else has killed it in the slaughterhouse, and he eats it. Like that, or he'll trap a rat and a live trap and then let it go down the road, and probably someone else will kill it. So yeah, that's not very sensible to do like that. And so these are some different perspectives, and definitely any spiritual practitioner should not enjoy seeing any other living thing suffering. And but it is necessary. It's said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, one of our main scriptures, that one living food is food for another. Jivo jivasya jivanam. That the strong subsist on the weak, and the big subsist on the small, and one living thing subsists on another. So that's the law of nature. Where they say the survival of the fittest, right? That it's just the law of nature. You can't live in this material world without subsisting on other living things. It's just a matter of how much, It's just try to reduce how much you need just purely for subsistence. And another point, very interesting point, well, like I said, is even karma. What do you mean? I'm a vegan and I'm getting bad karma. Yeah, so that's there. So can you dodge that? Yes. Now I'll teach you the art of how you can live in a world with violence and not get any reactions, not get any bad reactions, any bad karma. And that is that you've got to start off with vegetarian ingredients. It means no meat, no fish, no eggs, something like that. And you prepare them nicely into something edible, and rice, dal, curry, whatever, desserts, or just a platter of fruits or whatever like that, and then you offer them in sacrifice, in a loving offering of sacrifice to the Supreme Being, to God. And this is when the spiritual practitioner comes into it again. As a spiritual practitioner, we transform the eating process from a very violent process, we transform it into a loving exchange by preparing those foods and offering them with love to the Supreme. And it's said when the Supreme accepts those, and we call that in Sanskrit prasadam, which we see all food as the mercy. Prasadam means mercy. That God is, out of His mercy and love for us, His children, parts and parcels, is giving us the food to sustain us and inspire us to do our work and our activities and everything. So that's His mercy. So we offer it to Him, and He gives it back to us to sustain ourselves. So, but just by adding that extra step, rather than just cook the food and stuff our face, so we put one extra step in the process. We cook the food, we offer it to God, and then stuff our face. And we do that in thanks, in gratitude. Thank you for giving us this food. And what that does is it nullifies any bad karma, so you won't have to get any bad reaction for chopping the head off the broccoli or the lettuce or pulling the carrot out of the ground. You won't get a bad reaction. You won't have to take birth as a carrot or a broccoli or a lettuce because you pulled him out, so and then his next life you take birth as a carrot and he pulls you out. So that's what karma is. What goes around comes around, right? So that won't happen to you if you do this extra step and offer the food to the Supreme. In fact, the soul in that carrot or broccoli, lettuce or whatever benefits because its body got sacrificed, offered to the Supreme Being. And instead of going from, lettuce to the next species up, which I wouldn't have a clue what that is, in the 8,400,000 species cycle of evolution in the universe, so instead of going just the next one up, it goes immediately in its next life to the human form, which is a massive jump up from the plant species straight to the human species. And why that's a jump up? Because only the human species can become spiritually realized and become a spiritual practitioner. We don't see any lettuce spiritual practitioners chanting mantras and the names of God and things. So it's only the human beings do that, and that plant can get immediate lift up, or you're offering the milk from the cow, and then although that cow may have got slaughtered or whatever, very unfortunately, which is a horrible activity, but that soul in that cow, they got so badly treated by the human beings, by you offering that milk to God, that soul gets benefited like that and can get out of that cycle of taking birth again and again and being slaughtered in the slaughterhouse like that. So that's a way you can actually transform the eating process, which is violence there, but is actually, if you look at it and the way I'm explaining, is actually not violent. So what does that mean? You've killed its body. Okay, you have killed its body, but you've actually benefited its soul. So actually, according to the Vedic understanding, even though the bodies of those creatures have been killed, if they're somehow engaged in that offering to God process, then, which is called yajna, sacrifice, then actually the souls are benefited. So that's actually regarded as ahimsa, getting back to Sanskrit. That means non-violent. So actually, if you're offering those foodstuffs to the Supreme, that's actually regarded as non-violent because you have caused that soul to go up. You haven't caused the soul to go down. Whereas in the other process, you just kill the thing and you eat it. That soul goes down. It has to take birth again and continue that whatever destined period of time that it had to spend in that body. Like, for example, if a lettuce is going to be in that body for 3 months and you chopped its head off after 1 month, then it has to take birth again in the same body of a lettuce to finish off that remaining 3 months. The remaining 2 months that it's destined to be in that body. So you've actually delayed that soul's evolution, right? So that's violence. You've delayed that soul's evolution to getting liberated, getting out of the material world. Whereas if you offer that body of that soul, you've actually accelerated their coming to the point of getting liberated from the material world. So in that case, that killing of the body is regarded, according to the Vedas, as being non-violent. Interesting. So, completely different way of looking at it. And, so that's just a few different perspectives on that subject matter. So, how we can reconcile that you can be a spiritual practitioner and develop your relationship with God, at the same time be involved in cutting off the bodies of some living things, which is, like I said, unavoidable. But it's how to change that, transform what seems to be a very unpleasant, undesirable act into something that's actually very beneficial, something very beneficial. And I don't know if anyone has any. I didn't see any questions there, so we'll leave it at that. And And later on, if anyone hearing this has any comments or whatever, questions, please put that in here, and we'd be happy to answer if the best we can. And it'll be sitting here on this page for 1 month, and then Facebook removes it, so we'll move it over to our YouTube channel, Krishna Culture. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.